New Zealand V8 SuperTourers. Race 3, Greg Murphy on pole. Andre Heimgartner alongside. Were they touching there?
Yeah, a bit of aggravation there. Heimgartner on the right of screen. He's off grid 2 next to Greg Murphy. And Murphy's on the pole. Let's see who can get the run into turn 1.
Murph's already wrapped up the championship, second year in a row. Lights are out, away we go at Pookie. Murph takes the lead. Heimgartner's trying to get across, but he won't be able to because the gap is filled by Murph's young teammate, Richard Moore, in that white Commodore. Grabs the spot, and Heimgartner has to settle for third.
Yeah, so Richard Moore there as Heimgartner up the inside into turn 4. Not really a passing spot, but he's almost made it stick, and they'll run side by side down the back straight. This is the battle for second in the championship here. All these guys between Heimgartner and Moore are battling to get second in the lineup.
Now that's Steve Owen in that black Commodore trying to sneak down the inside and make a spot. Moore's got damage right front. He's in really deep at the chicane, and Heimgartner straight off. This is great for Murph. It's giving him clear air. Steve Owen, Moore, that's Tim Edgell going the long way around Simon Evans. Wild and willing first lap, and Owen now down the inside, jumps to second spot. Murphy, though's got a margin.
He does, and he's got a great lead there on cold tyres while the other guys battle it out. Steve Owen, he's not in championship contention. This is his first race for this season in the SuperTourers. You see there, Richard Moore's got right front damage. He's teammates with Greg Murphy in M3 Racing, and he wants to try and get second in the points.
Margin at the line. Murphy is clear. It's 1.6 seconds. We jump on board.
This is a cool part of the racetrack, turn 1. It's really exciting stuff. Big bumps through there, and the SuperTour is very similar in car speed to the V8 supercars. They don't have the same amount of horsepower, but the corner speed and the punch off the corner is very, very similar.
This is Mark Gibson on board the John McIntyre Racing for Johnny Mack. We know from his time in the V8 Enduros in the last few years. Dick Johnson's done plenty of racing here at Pookie in the days of the Nissan Mobile 500s, the like, but keeping an eye on what's going on here. There's plenty of young Kiwi driving talent. He's watching Heimgartner because Andre is a Dick Johnson Racing development driver for 2014. He's driving in the Dunlop Series, and that is the right front Hankook on the Edgell car, smoking out the hairpin, and Simon Evans is through. Simon Evans, not the Australian rally driver, we should point out, brother of Mitch Evans, who's racing in GP2 open wheelers and under the wing of Mark Webber.
Yeah, he's almost fallen under the shadow of his brother Mitch, as Simon. He had a really good start to the weekend, qualified in the top 3, and then unfortunately had a bit of a tangle in the first race, and he's still fighting his way through the field. But look at this cool shot. You can see the attitude on the cars. There's Heimgartner in front of Moore, who looks like that right front damage hasn't slowed him down. Spent
some time in the paddock over the weekend, Jack. You know these cars pretty well from your time. Well, you've been co-driver for Greg Murphy in the endurance element of this series. There's not many things you can adjust on the run. They don't have anti-roll bar adjustments. You can make a bit of brake bias, but that's about it. As Moore gets down the inside of Heimgartner at the chicane, carts him straight off the road. That was a bit cheeky.
It was. It's like he didn't give him quite enough racing room. It's hard, though. You're committed. You're up the inside. You're carrying more speed, and he was trying, but unfortunately he's ran Heimgartner wide. It'll be interesting to see how the stewards see that one next.
Murphy's cleared away. Steve Owen next, so it's really this fight for third. Fight for second is actually on in the series, and Moore here is among it. Heimgartner is among it as well. And they both managed to at least make it through here, but
you see the curb right there. Moore's just grabbed a bit too much of that apex curb on the right, and it's thrown the car over to the left, and Heimgartner's lost 2 spots out of that, but Murph's well clear. He's 4/10 of a second faster than Steve Owen, and he's pulled a margin of nearly 3 seconds.
Looking back here at Angus Fogg in the number 3 car, position 9 at the moment. Ant Pedersen next in the queue. He's been fast, but unlucky. Got a drive-through penalty earlier in the weekend for some contact with Simon Evans, so he's really been working back because the grid is how they finished the previous race. You can hear the different note V8 engine, as Jack mentioned earlier. It's a 7-litre. It's essentially the engine that's in the Mosler GT car, producing about 6,200 revs to make about 550 horsepower, so about 100 down on a V8 supercar. The torque's very good. The overall power's not as much, but the end result in lap time is not that far away from a V8 supercar.
No, exactly right. You see a big battle here. That's Angus Fogg in the Property Tutors Commodore. He's stuck the nose in on the inside of the hairpin, but hasn't made the move stick. You're right, the torque of these engines actually keeps up with the V8 supercars. They lose a little bit at the end of the straight. They're about 15 to 20 k's slower in the peak velocity, but they maintain that speed off the corners, and as you say, the lap time's only sort of 8 to 9/10 of a second off the pace.
It's been running for a couple of years, this SuperTourers series. That's Morgan Haber, the Oryx Commodore down the inside. Young Queensland driver that's been in the Dunlop series for the last season and a half. He's part of the Greg Murphy M3 team. There's 3 cars from that squad. M3 because the 3 owners will have an M in their name. Murphy, Paul Manuel and Graham Moore. Not the Australian Graham Moore, but Kiwi Graham Moore, whose son Richard is driving that white number 10 car. So plenty of cross-pollination too between Australia and New Zealand. Supercars, SuperTourers in terms of the guys involved in the cars and outside the cars as Fogg tries to run it down the inside and hang on for the outside, but he's left himself a little vulnerable here because Ant Pedersen in that purple and black Falcon is right on the scene.
So Foggy's made the move stick there. One thing... Heimgartner's been turned around.
Now Mitch Cunningham's gone around there as well, almost like there's something on the road. And Heimgartner's car is... Yeah, look, there's coolant, fluid. There's fluid. He's left a present for the rest of them, and they've found it. So something's let go in the Hydrolink Commodore for the young Kiwi, and that kisses his chances of second in the series goodbye. And I reckon that's a safety car waiting to be called because he is parked and not moving anywhere. And they're going to need to clean up the track. Safety car's called right now.
Yeah, and he's had the door open ready to get out. So obviously he can't drive the car back. But I was just about to touch on, you know, in this category, you're actually not allowed to block for position. Different to V8 supercars where you can block defend. As we look at the replay here, let's have a look at Heimgartner. See if anyone turns him around or whether he spins on his own fluid.
It was already letting go there. And around he goes. Morgan Haber in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mitch Cunningham in the blue Ford loops it. You can see the road
covered in fluid. So the big winner there was Timmy Edgell. He moved up to 5th. He zigzagged his way through all that, and both Timmy Edgell and Angus Fogg have moved up to 5th and 6th.
Tough stuff for the Hydrolink team. Andre Heimgartner will see him back in the Dunlop Series in the next round at Barbagallo in Perth. He's driving for Matthew White's team in one of the ex-FPR Fords, but right now his Commodore is cooked. He is parked and the safety car is on the road here at Pukekohe. We'll take a break. More NZV8 SuperTourers when we come back. Murphy is the leader behind the Petters safety car. It is race 3 of the BNT V8 SuperTourers New Zealand's own V8 flavoured racing category. In this man, the king of Pukekohe, Greg Murphy, has clinched the championship for the 2nd year in a row, but he leads the way. Steve Owen, the FPR endurance driver, the former main game regular in the V8 Supercars Championship, doing a one-off this weekend in the Kiwi category. He sits 2nd. We've lost Andre Heimgartner. That engine has let go in the Hydrolink Commodore, and they've been removing that car and cleaning up the road. Jack Perkins down at the hairpin because it's left a little bit of coolant down on the road, and some bits of that engine look like it was among it as well.
Yeah, it has. We see the lights are out on the safety car, so we're going racing this lap. A couple of famous New Zealand motorsport entities there, Jimmy and Ross Stone. Good to see them watching on. Good to see Jimmy back at the racetrack.
And Steve Horn to the left there, not got a car in today's race. He's the Tasman Motorsport owner, of course, formerly owned a team in Indy cars in the US. His car was crashed out yesterday when it had a tyre let go. So back to racing. Greg Murphy leads the restart to the line. Steve Owen chasing in that black number 7 Commodore. Simon Evans in the silver Smeg car. He sits 3rd. Then Richard Moore, Tim Edgell. Angus Fogg's been a big mover. He's up to position 6 from 12th on the grid. The former Team Kiwi V8 Supercar driver. There he is. He's still in a black Commodore. Easy to pick.
Yeah, he was part of the inaugural Team Kiwi with Jason Richards. So Foggy's a good New Zealand motorsport character. He loves his racing, and good to see him moving forward in the field. But Murphy caught them all napping there, I think, on the restart. He didn't bunch them up. As soon as the safety car peeled away, he got on with the job. As we see Simon Evans closing in on the back of Steve Owen, and Foggy having a bit of a look there at Tim Edgell in the Chester's Commodore.
And that purple and black Ford is Ant Pedersen, who drives in the Dunlop Series for the Eggleston Motorsport team. He was the runner-up to Murphy in this championship last year. Fogg down the inside, gets it done. Pedersen's on the way through.
See there all that dust and dirt on the exit of the hairpin. That's something that the competitors will need to keep in mind as they get in on the power out of the hairpin. It'll still be quite slippery for a couple of laps. And as you say, Ant Pedersen, he really pushed Greg Murphy for the championship last year, and he's a good young talent driving in the Dunlop Series in my old team with Eggleston Motorsport.
One of the things too, Jack, with this category, they run the same size tyre as V8 Supercars, 18-inch, but it's a hand put. It's a different company that obviously makes the tyres. Characteristics-wise, is it much different from the Dunlop? Do you have to get your head around it?
Yeah, it is. It's actually a really good tyre. It comes from the DTM category in Germany, so it's got good background, and it just gives good feel, and it maintains good pace and consistency throughout the long races. In our long 200k endurance races here, we don't even change the tyres because we don't need to. The degradation's not so bad. We just noticed there that Simon Evans has got past Steve Owen as someone's taken a shortcut there in the background. That looked like Chris Hanley in the 27 machine. But Simon Evans now up to second. He'll be trying to hunt down Murph and see if he can win this last race of this 2014 season.
Pedersen on the move down the inside. It's a good point you made. Hang on, last round, it's only April, but we should point out to you that, that's Richard Moore going to pit lane there in the background on the left of screen. The white Commodore peeling off. But we should point out that they've decided, rather than having the 4 sprint rounds, the winter break and then the 3 Enduros, to bring this championship into a line with more traditional New Zealand calendaring. So they'll have the endurance races to start the 2014/15 season, and then the sprints at the start of the next calendar year to finish off the season. So just changing things around, hence why this is a shortened championship.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you say, New Zealand's been quite famous for its summer series. It's always attracted a lot of international competitors because it's always the racing off-season. So they're just getting back into tune with the New Zealand calendar. And as we're on board with Gibson here, looking up the inside of Dominic Story in the Iceport Falcon, and he's decided to go straight ahead. Couldn't quite pull it up. You see him go through the tyre chicane, and he'll have to slot back into position here.
He's another of the young Kiwis that have been racing this category. He's got a lot of open wheeler experience, Dominic Story, and that's him in that Iceport car, and he gets a little bit of a helping hand from Simon McLennan on the way through.
This is a great bit of racetrack through here, Nugent. Massive commitment in both the Super Tourer and the V8 Supercar. V8 Supercar does get there a little bit faster, actually, but the Super Tourer rides the bumps pretty similar, and they both have a similar speed coming onto the front straight.
Is it a big project to reprogram your brain when you jump from the supercar to the Super Tourer and vice versa?
It's a little bit. We're lucky we don't have to do it on the same weekend. I think you know, the power, the way the car drives off the corner, the way the throttle ratio is, it makes them a little bit different to drive. But you know, when we come over here to New Zealand, it's a different weekend obviously with supercars. But a bit of loose bodywork there hanging off the back of that car. Whether he'll get a penalty or not to come in and fix that, we'll have to see.
Just trailing the... Oh, it's not going to matter because he's going to fire it straight in here. Does make it around the corner. Simon McLennan's a gentleman. He'll give him another tap here and get rid of it for him.
So good to see Simon McLennan having a good run. My endurance co-driver Cameron Ward has raced with him for the last 2 seasons over here, and looking forward to the Pertec Enduro Cup with Cam this year, and he'll be racing against me in New Zealand as well.
You might be with this guy though, Greg Murphy, leading the way. Margins 1.5 seconds back to Simon Evans, who is up in second now. Steve Owen next. There's Angus Fogg. He's been a mover. Ant Pedersen, Tim Edgell, Mark Gibson, Dominic Story next through. McLennan, as we mentioned, Hanley had that run off the road down through the chicane, and there's Morgan Haber in the Oryx Commodore. He's being engineered actually by Matty Crawford, former HRT engineer. He and Pete Smith, a couple of old HRT boys who are into this team, and the irony is that they're in the same team with Paul Forgy, who for years they fought against when he was with Stone Brothers and Marcus Ambrose.
No, M3 Racing have got, you know, probably one of the best teams here. They've got good personnel, good people, and you know, they've got good engineers, and that's pretty key here. So you see Morgan there locking the rears, having a look around the outside of Hanley there. It's good to see, you know, these guys getting good experience because it's hard to get mileage, and you know, Morgan races both in Australia and New Zealand, so he's really looking forward to hopefully getting a V8 Supercar endurance drive next season.
He drives for Matthew White's team in the Dunlop Series in an Ford Performance Racing Falcon, so he's jumping from brand to brand, from series to series, but it's all miles and it's all good experience. Murphy out front, 2 laps to go, and holding that margin. It's 1.8 seconds, and this is on board with numero uno, the king, the Lord Mayor. He's got every title here.
He does, he does. It was pretty cool when we won the championship last year. All we did was pull the 5 off the 51, and then he was #1. He was a bit unsure whether he was going to run the #1 this season, but on board now with Murph, pulls top gear down the back straight, and then it'll be hard on the brakes at the 150-metre mark, back down to second gear into this new complex. The car looks like it's handling really well. Murph showing these boys a clean set of heels, and hopefully with 2 laps to run, or a lap and a half, he'll finish the championship on a high note with another race win, yet another race win, I should say, in this Super Tourer category.
Watching the footwell, seeing something a little different from the traditional Gregory style of left foot braking. It's gone back to a bit more right foot action. Not quite here though, just to settle the car. That's not really to slow it down majorly like a regular braking zone, but for many years he was one of the few guys in V8s that was a full-time left foot braker.
Yeah, that's right. He's migrated back to right foot braking for a couple of reasons. a little reason is his back issues he's had over the recent years, but also to save fuel in the V8 Supercar endurance races, you don't use as much fuel when you're a right foot braker, and then also in these SuperTourers, you know, it's good to use a clutch on the downshift to really look after that engine and the driveline. So Murph battling a little bit of mid to exit oversteer there in the Mike Pero Commodore, but I think he's just doing it quite comfortable.
He's moved back to New Zealand since last year. He's been living in Australia for pretty much 2 decades, but packed up Monica, the kids, and came home to New Zealand over Christmas and really enjoying his time being back here, but he is spending a lot of time flying backwards and forwards to Australia. He'll be, remember, at the Enduros with James Courtney for the Holden Racing team. Another assault on the mountain in October, but this is the place that we know him so well. Brock was the king of the mountain. Murphy is the king of Pookie. There's no doubt about it. Final turn is coming up, and he's going to make it 3 in a row. Listen to the crowd. They'll love this. Murphy wins in the NZ V8 SuperTourers. Good job. Simon Evans has pushed him all the way to the line, but Murphy has clean swept the weekend so far. 3 from 3 is hard to beat.
Absolutely, and like I said, another race win for Murph. You said good for Simon Evans to get up to second and Steve Owen in third, and that's the end of the race there and the championship. So Murph back-to-back champion, and we might see some burnouts on top of the hill here.
Never know, never know. Might have mellowed a little in his slightly middle age. He does need to look after those handcooks, though, because he will need them for the rest of the weekend. Recapping the results, Greg Murphy, the winner, cruising margin at the end. He rolled it to the line, half a second clear of Evans. Steve Owen, we'll see him in the Dunlop Series at Perth. Angus Fogg next from Mount Pedersen, Tim Edgell, Mark Gibson, Simon McLennan, Dominic Story and Morgan Hamer rounded at the 10. Hanley Cunningham and Richard Moore had some dramas. He did rejoin, but he finished 13th. Andre Heimgartner, DNF engine let go in the high drilling Commodore. Let's have a look at the highlights if you missed the start of the race. Double file rolling start. It was close. It was really close, Jacko.
As well as looking backwards from Murph's car there, and then we see Murph's teammate Richard Moore got a little bit of right front damage there, and that could be potentially why he came in the pits later in the race. We saw Steve Owen move up to second, and then back to Richard Moore here making the move on Heimgartner. A little bit cheeky there, running him off the road. That also could have been a reason for his later pit stop.
And this was where it all went wrong for the man who was second in the points. Andre Heimgartner looked like the engines let go. It left all sorts of fun stuff on the road for the rest of them. Mark Gibson was one of them. Safety car came out, slowed the field down, closed them up, gave Steve Owen a crack at Greg Murphy, but Murph was able to clear away. Simon Evans did get past Steve Owen and picked up second, so that was the highlights. Greg Murphy victorious again at Pukekohe. A note too to our New South Wales and Queensland viewers, switch to 7 after the break to keep watching all the action from here at Pukekohe Park.